Okay, welcome to Conversations in the Deep Field. That's what we're calling this. So we've had a couple of these. We did one on the Mysterium Tremendum, and then we did one on what is source realization a couple of weeks ago. And so we thought, oh, it's so neat having these conversations and seeing how we all see it and where we come from and see the different angles on it. That today we thought we'd talk about our quantum becoming. Like, you know, pretty much most people agree that this is like an incredible time of huge transformation, transcendence, ascendance, whatever people want to call it. And that we're most definitely becoming something new, and we're kind of quantum leaping into that. The process, I think, is very different from what we've had before. So I thought we'd just talk about it and get our views on it and stir the conversation pot a bit. So how's it sound? Okay, should we all just line up first for that? Okay, so anybody who's watching this later, just take a deep breath and line up with our quantum becoming. Yeah. Fantastic. So for me, I've been started to write a new book called Becoming Infinite. And for me, that whole thing looked like going from, pretty ordinary human into kind of higher self, greater being, into infinite being, source being, and the process through which we went through that has been very different, because I'm really fascinated with transformation, as I think all of us are, and how we get to these new levels. And for me, we've been quantum leaping or quantum evolving in the last decade for sure, if not 20, 25 years or more. So that's kind of my overview of it. Did anybody else want to say yours and kind of where you come from with it?
Sure, I'll speak up. Yes, coming into the quantum, in the past, we've been like stuck in our human bodies and thinking we were human, and now that we've evolved into knowing that there's more things going on, it's like there's a whole new level of feeling in my body and realizing that my cells are actually each a universe, and it all communicating together, and now beginning to know that we're communicating with nature, with everything out here, with the stars, with the earth, with everything in this quantum way, with frequencies, and starting to recognize how we are able to direct things frequency wise in the quantum. So it's just like a whole new exploding world out there. And so that's
Yeah.
my
Yeah, beautifully said.
observation.
Yeah, wonderful. Yep.
I think what
Anybody else?
occurs to me is, I've been playing in and touching the quantum, like you said, Soleira, for decades, long, long time. But this quantum becomingness, it's like for me that the scale is tipped. Instead of now touching the quantum, I'm more and more living the quantum.
Yeah.
Still dealing, and I got this week dealing with humanity, so I can still get kind of caught in that. But it's the evolution, but it's not baby steps. It's quantum leaps in all of our becomingness, all of our realization of who we be, and the impact of that through everything we do.
Yeah, that's the process I've been talking about. It's very different. Um, it, I think, I mean, because I studied transformation back 30, 40 years ago, and
Yeah.
and it was like pushing an elephant up the hill. You know, come on, we can achieve our potential, and step by step and working on it. And, there was like resistance to it. Whereas this is like, oh, look, I'm new all over again. How did that happen? You know, and then these superpower shows up, the mastery shows up, you occur differently, and it's got a kind of grace to the whole thing, I think. So, yeah. Yeah, Lynn.
Yeah, I'm trying to sort of get an angle on it, because I know that I probably have been quantum most of my life, but I think before I didn't, it was like in and out. It was like there was something you went to and came back, or you connected to, and now it seems to be that like you're all saying, it's the whole thing. And what I was reflecting on today was that I was realizing how transparent, you know, that when I'm with people, what I'm sensing is the field. It's not the person. It's like I'm, you know, and it sort of took, because I think it's something like before I thought that was how they were. And then I'm now realizing, no, that's the field of that person that I am sensing. And that gives me a totally different perspective, because it means that I am just the observer of that. I don't have to relate to it. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's how that was sort of came to me today, that's very different from how it was before. I think somehow I took responsibility that there was something wrong with me, that I was picking up this in the other, rather than realizing, no, it's the field. It's, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I just wrote a chapter in Becoming Infinite called From Sensitivities to Superpowers. So it's talking about the shift from empathy to what you're talking about, which is a vaster connectedness, a kind of larger picture sense of things without just the strange emotions or hard feelings, or, you know, it's more of a whole. And do you know what I think that is? I think it's the being included. So a lot of when before you were dealing with a human with potential, and the field existed, but it was somewhat invisible, or I think empaths picked up some of it. But as soon as the being becomes more predominant in the physicality, then the field is more active and vibrant and dynamic, and we have more input or activation of the field itself. So our ability to work with people in transformation changes.
Yes, and that's for sure. That's also my experience, is that I so much more easily can bring that vision of outside of the matrix, or outside of that field, to that person, so that the transformation can happen more quickly. Or
yeah,
more.
Because for me, before we were working with potential, now we're working with possibilities.
Okay.
And that's different. I mean, that's my term for it. I suppose there could be other terms for it, but instead of, well, here's what's already inbuilt that you can become, we're working with a whole possibility of what you could create yourself as. It's quite limitless now, as opposed to preset.
Yeah.
And the field, therefore, is adaptive because of the beingness. The field is more adaptive and malleable and fluid in its creational capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mary,
Yeah.
go for it.
So many things swirling around as I was listening and thinking what was coming up from me. I think there's also something, as well as the moving from potential to possibility, there's almost something as if all future possibilities already exist, and we simply have to choose which thread we want to follow in the weave of the universe, you know, the fabric of the universe, and we can change course and make different choices. So there's almost this, it's not preordained, there's all those possibilities, and we can choose which way to go. And there's so much more that we haven't seen before that we can now explore. in those different ways. There's something about that. It's interesting because the word quantum itself doesn't really mean very much to me. I think maybe it's got so many different fields in which it's used, but I just see the energy and the lightness and sparkle. When we were first lining up, I just felt sort of joyful playfulness, if you like. That's the way I could describe it, but it was more than that. It had a power behind it, and the power of nature, which was making me sneeze tremendously earlier on, which is why I turned my video off, which made me laugh. Like, okay, we're talking about potential and power, and there I'm sneezing my head off.
Yeah.
So nature was letting me know about her power then. There's something about that, about a choice of all possible, amazingly future possibilities that we can just grow into and follow and have fun with.
Yeah, I agree. I see the same thing, as I do a lot of that looking forward for people to choose paths. And I think before there was like destiny, or that's the way we perceived it anyways, you know, and now it's like, oh, you know, you could do this, you could do that, you could go there, you could choose this access point, and it's so different, but it's also, I find all pathways kind of rise now. I don't see pathways that go like head down. Maybe that's just my looking, but I don't encounter them
Yeah,
like that.
I think there's something about also, I was talking to somebody earlier on, and she was saying about not wanting to be overwhelmed with all the different choices, and she's got lots of options in her life, I think she's doing at the moment. And there's something there about almost as if the universe, the energy, whatever you want to call it, is collaborating with us, so we can choose. We can also ask for help in following a path, if you like, so that we can have that way forward that is right for this moment without feeling overwhelmed with all those other things. So it's not about being less sensitive, it's just about being more focused, I think, on what it is and what those possibilities are that we want to follow.
Exciting. Anybody else want to weigh in on all that?
I got caught in a good way with sort of the preset potential and the infinite potential. So I kind of went, oh, wait, oh, so there's like something unlocked in that conversation that we're just having here again. And that's what I'm finding in all of our becomingness is being willing to hear it different. Because some of our language just doesn't work. I mean, it feels like we need new language because we use the same words, at least I do, that I used 10 years ago, 20 years ago, but it means totally different.
Yeah.
That whole becomingness is allowing another maybe pathway, another seeing, another sensing, another being to just unlock. And that feels very continuous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is fascinating to me. I mean, as I think Dorianna mentioned, there's like, you have a real sense of, I am the universe is me. The universe has my back. I am flowing the universe through me, or the infinite, or source, or, you know, many different terms, but it's that the ability to embody and to flow with something so far greater than one's tiny body. You know, and I've called it us as alchemists, ALLCHEMISTS, and it's kind of like that. There's this fluid ability suddenly to not only experience the greater fields and possibilities, but also one of the things for me that I've found is our ability to activate and actualize those things. So it's not just, oh, I feel like I can feel like the all or the universe. I can actually work in with a finesse or kind of mastery to bring some of those possibilities to life, which I think is very, very different for me than it was 25 years ago. That didn't exist in my repertoire.
So I'm just sort of thinking that also one of the things that I'm noticing is, oh gosh, now it just, it went from me, but it was something about, yes, that the reality as it used to be conceived by people, like sort of what we see in the newspapers, it's almost like it's becoming less and less and less relevant. It's like we're going into a reality that is beyond that reality that people used to call reality. And to me, it's like it's almost just like paper cardboard or something like that. It doesn't have substance anymore. I mean, yeah. And I think that's also part of this becoming quantum
Yes,
experience.
I agree. I think we are learning the art of reality creation, and not just for our own lives. I mean, we're getting pretty good at that. You can tell from how things are working for us all, but in a grander scope as well. I mean, we've been doing consciousness innovation together for quite a while, but it's not just the consciousness. It's the energetics, it's the field, it's the possibilities, it's the innovation, it's got a very kind of modern sense to it for me. It's not something from the past, it's something that we're finessing constantly and developing as a new art form. So yeah. You get the rest of you feel that about that you now have more of a mastery around sourcing a greater reality.
Sometimes. And sometimes I get drawn into the cardboard that Lynn was talking about. But the thing that I'm becoming more aware of it is I don't care, which feels really bizarre. It feels, it's not selfish in that sense. Now you guys are going to understand that because we've been playing in it.
Yeah.
But like to the people in the world who are not playing where we're playing, and they got totally caught in the news and the cardboard. I love that cardboard reality, however, paperboard, whatever. And I just listen to those conversations. I go, I don't care. I totally don't care. And that's so bizarre. And that's sort of where my rub is now, because, recently we were playing with, yesterday, in fact, about I'm the great unifier stuff. I'm like, man, I got nothing going in my own household. I can't unify nothing. And there's a level of I don't care. So anyway, just sort of riffing on that a little bit, but that it doesn't matter. In the great cosmic where we're playing, none of that matters.
Yeah. I think you're describing what I would call the observer effect.
Yeah.
Because underneath it is a great care.
It
for the
is
world.
a great care, but I don't care.
Yeah, it's a paradox.
Yeah, it is.
And when you sit in that paradox, then you can be effective. Because as long as you're caught up, you can't work from that place. You can't elevate and uplift and actualize potential and possibilities from that place. So I think it's the observer effect. I feel that too, although I know every one of us like, whoa, we super care. We wouldn't be doing what we do. But we observe and then go and have the freedom for it. It's interesting when you say about being caught in it. I was last year in 2020, I got caught in a lot of it. It really took my attention and enwrapped me, what the world was doing. And this year I'm like you, I'm like, well, it's all going right sometime soon, and it's already heading there, it's already available, it's real in our lives. And so I'm just going to be there. I'm going to be sourcing that reality for everyone and be differently in it, because I realized that all my being caught up didn't allow me to be effective. Interesting, huh? Yeah.
It is.
And are you experiencing yourself those, what I would call the quantum up levels? You know, where you just like, you're something new all over again. And sometimes, like even before this call, I was fast asleep for an hour and a half in the afternoon, which I don't usually do. And I don't have any judgment of that anymore. I'm like, oh, here comes another shift. You know, okay, it's going to feel like this for a while. That's all right. I don't need to fuss with it. And I put a lot of grace and non-judgment into it for myself, because I think what makes the biggest difference for me in this quantum becoming is be excited, be curious, and be on the adventure and be willing. Because it's when you have a resistance to it that it jars a bit, you know? So yeah. How about the rest of you? How is it for you experiencing it?
I think it is what Aliza said about not caring, and you said like not having judgment. And Ujma talks about being irrelevant, doesn't she? That these things are they're just the stuff, the cardboard reality that actually, you know, it takes up a lot of people and all those things, but actually it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in the long run. You know, it'll all turn out one way or the other, and it'll be what it'll be. But the difference is it's partly that thing that's been around for a long time about choosing your reality, which is a very real thing. Of course, we can all choose that, but it's something, another level of it's not a level. I don't want to think of it as ups and downs, but it's a different scale, I suppose, of being able to create a different energy, and that will ripple out from all of us as it does, you know, whatever in our lives. And it's not, you know, I used to think, well, it's the people I come into contact with, people I speak to. But I think actually, if the more I'm in that place of expectation and excitement and possibility, those ripples in quantum sense can reach around and out into the universe and where else might be wishing to receive whatever it is. And that's the same for all of us. And that's that weave and that web, but it's not a static thing. It's sort of scintillating and glowing and whooshing around and making beautiful patterns and all these things. And that's available to letting go of the other stuff at the same time, which enables us all to sort of fly in a different way.
Beautifully said. Yeah, Mary, because you were talking about seeing the streams of realities and pathways. Do you believe the world is heading in a great direction and that we're going to get there?
Yes.
Me too.
Yeah.
The rest of you too, do you believe that? Isn't that interesting? That might be also part of why we don't get so caught up, is because we see the other version of what's happening.
But it's almost as if I am that other version. I think that's what it feels like. It's like that there is no other way to live at this point.
Yeah. Me too. Same for the rest of you?
Yeah.
Yes, and I think that I see that things are happening. People show up, things happen here, they happen there, and they're all the same. And then something comes in from there, and it's like it's just presented to me, and it just takes effect, and things just are coming together in all this new way of the new things. And I don't even really have to project any energy to go say, well, what should I do now? And what should I do with this person? And then things just appear, and then they have these wonderful pain relief and experiences that just happen later. And it's just amazing at what is going on, that we're coming above just observing to co-creating and then becoming the creation itself, that we're just all a part of this, and we're just a planet in the cosmos that revolving around whatever it is in the greater scheme of things. And then the little minor things and the things that are going on over there, just say, well, yeah, look, this is happening and it looks like that, and but it's really bringing that up, and everybody's going to look at that in future days probably and see that all that stuff is just not even going on, not even important, and all those things are going to just be taken away in their own way by the creation of the universe.
Yes.
Is taking us into these new realms.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I see the world. I love what you said too, Lynn. It's like we are it. We are the new, which is, I think, part of that pivot that's happened this year is even more so embodiment of that, and the allowing has replaced or transcended the resistance, I think. Yes. And then I love Mary's, the imagery with what you speak, Mary, and the weaves, and I don't necessarily automatically see that, but every time you speak, I like see what you see, kind of, sort of, and I think all of that is just, it's brilliant. And for me, if anything, I get a little impatient to see it more fully in the world. But if I quit paying attention to the cardboard, I will, and I do.
We are that walking new reality. I don't consider myself anymore just a person having a life and having some impact. I know that I am walking a new reality into the world, that I am sourcing that and sourcing it with all of you and all over the world and people all over the world, that we've moved from just being a singular entity without much impact to being able to be the field and therefore source the movement and the pathways and the possibilities of the field and the reality realizing itself. Yeah. Fascinating, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else on that? Interesting. I know that we have all of us here would say that we have been experiencing our own mastery recently. Wouldn't you say so? Yeah. It's a funny, I don't think I could have even had that conversation 5-10 years ago. It would have sounded weird. And now it's just like, yeah. yeah. It's part of life. It's part of the possibilities of us. It's a very different thing for us to be able to experience ourselves in a completely different, in a completely liberated way. Like I am the creator of myself now. And there's no set pattern to me anymore. I can radicalize and revolutionize that pattern at will and become anything I want to become. That's why I talk about it becoming infinite. Are you experiencing things like that yourself?
I am as well. And one of the things that I most love in everything that I'm doing is these conversations and the groups that we are in together, where we witness that in each other and for each other, because it helps me realize that I am experiencing that. And I think without that, I wouldn't be quite so aware of it. But it's being witnessed in it. It's putting language on it. It's going, oh yeah, we really are the creators of our own reality. And I don't know. I mean, I guess just again, that collective knowing helps me embody it. I guess I don't know if that's exactly what I was trying to say, but I don't have any better words right now.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
Yes, I think I agree, Eliza. It's really important for me to come and share these these moments and these conversations to keep reminding myself of that. And then what you said just now, Soleira, about the bigger community of everybody that's doing this, I think that's precisely where the power and the shift is happening, is because there's so many people. It doesn't matter if we're not all literally connected and speak, because there's so many people coming to this place from different directions. Together we're coming from totally different directions and experiences, both now and in the future. There's something about willingness, I think, that willing and to let that old stuff. I'm like Eliza, I'm going to keep coming back to cardboard, Lynn. It's a really lovely expression. Describing something about that old cardboard reality back into my daily life, and then I step back out and think, oh yeah, that's interesting. I was sort of in that day-to-day stuff of being human and being in I think we'd in some ways I'd be sorry to let go of some of that, because it brings me back in a way. It's going back into that for a little while. And, okay, I can be differently with and choose a different way, differently, and then it helps me move forward. Be that different way with other people. It's something that really helps in connecting. And when I'm working with my own groups, it's very different than the one we're having here. But on some levels, it's very having an experience, and they're seeing it, and they're describing it, and gaining insights and inspiration from the work we do together. So it's just through the same conversation and the same, I'll say, rather than work, the same activities we're doing together.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yes, I find that when I'm drawn into the cardboard, that I don't have as much ability to be in the other frequencies where I can be more sensitive and observant of what's coming into my life and how I'm experiencing the other, which is me, nature and everything else. And my own guidance and direction and me coming forth as my divine comes out more when I'm not distracted by the cardboard. I really do feel that does drag me down. And then I see that when I put it aside for a bit, then things start flowing much more easily in this big quantum.
Yeah. 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 Lynn?
Yeah, you were sort of so you were asking about this shift that's been happening recently, and I really have been feeling that. I think even before solstice, that there's been these, really strong, and I think almost continuously the last 2-3 weeks, that there is no, it's like there is no solid ground in the way that you would sometimes come back to a solid, sort of like a solid something. And now it's just like I just have to flow forward and go with it and sense what is the moment craving of me. And when I, whenever I start to think back into the kind of the box kind of thing, it just doesn't work. It's like I get just tied up in knots. I have to let go anyway.
Yeah.
And and this new that's being created is really not defined. It's almost like I feel like I'm learning to use a totally new set of muscles. It's like a whole new way of swimming, and I haven't really learnt to swim in this field before in a real way. And that's I suppose that's what we're doing right now. We're learning the babies, at least for me, I'm learning baby steps of how do I go with the flow? How do I just let it be. Okay, I just need to be moving right now. I can't sit down and sit in front of my computer right now. And just, okay, so that's how it is, and that's fine.
Yeah. It's interesting. We're having this conversation about the cardboard reality and the other. And for me, what I did was I gave up being human and I chose to be fully infinite. Now, that might not work for everybody. That might not be like everybody will have a unique way to it. But for me, that's what did it. And I would say what was underneath that as well was I gave myself over to the greater work, the bigger movement of this world and this universe to something grander. And as soon as I did that, all that other stuff just fell away. Now, when I say I gave up being human, it doesn't mean I'm fully in a body, I'm fully loving life on earth, I'm fully healthy in here. It's not like I'm somewhere else. It's a different version of it. But I am the infinite flow of the universe at work through a physicality on the planet and in the universe. That's how I reoriented myself. And once I did that, then it got easier for me. The cardboard didn't grip me quite so much. How about for you? Have you found ways for you through that?
I'm just going to jump on what you said, because earlier in this conversation, you were talking about the human sort of becoming the being, and then the being has far surpassed the human. And for you, you've given up the human. I haven't quite given up my human, but I like the idea. And in that context, I hadn't actually thought about it as human being, from human becoming being. And so I've got some really interesting grapplings going around here, and like, oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
And for me, the more that I hang out here with you all, the easier it is. I mean, it just is, because then I can go away for a minute or a day or a week or a month. I don't usually go away for months, but then it's like I can get caught. And so this is like, oh yeah, this feels more real, more true me. And I would say I'm fully embodied in it, except for when I'm not.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. When I'm talking about the human versus the infinite, you could say it's terminology, but actually it's also energetics and beingness. So I define human as a bunch of consciousness constructs of what a human is supposed to be and how they occur. We occur as emotional beings primarily. We occur with a kind of like we cycle in our brains a lot. We follow logic and order. That tends to be the normal way of it. Not for everybody, but an infinite is total flow and a total big picture energy and vast in its limitless access. And that for me is the difference. But in both cases, you could be very, very here and very alive and very present at the same time. But to me, they're just different, not just definitions, but different points of access for your being.
I think one of the important things about having a body is being able to experience everything through our senses. So being able to, as I do, go out on the cliffs and really feel the power of the sea pounding, they can feel the noise of the waves pounding on the beach below me because it comes up through the ground, and I really love that. And sometimes when I'm lying in bed at night, we can hear it from the cliffs a few miles away. If the wind's in the right direction, the sea's in the right direction, you can actually feel this rumble through the ground. I just love that power. And, feeling the wind, seeing the birds, feeling the sunshine or the rain or whatever it is. And, when it's warm enough to go out with bare feet, stand between the toes and all those things. And that's such a joy of being a human being in a human body. And that's why we come here and do this, I believe. It's that, all those things. And it also brings so many challenges, but it also brings so many messages and knowings. The more I'm connected to the full senses of my body, the more information I receive from it and through it, in the sense that, you know, every cell has its own brain, as you know, Dorianna knows a lot about this, but you know, these ways that all our cells are a sort of a conscious part of us anyway, and they're all doing their jobs, and maybe it's for me to help them do that, to keep myself healthy, is to look after this vessel that I'm living in at the moment and help it do its thing as best it can, and add in all this sort of magical energy which energizes and sparkles and helps everything flow so beautifully.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I'm probably going to have to wrap us up, but how about if we just have each one of you, just if you could say to people one thing they could do to go into this quantum becoming with grace and ease, what would you say?
Well, I was just thinking before that we were coming from more of a masculine way of observing ourselves as being human, with our ego minds and our emotions, and doing. And coming into the new, it's more of a feminine divine flow, and just letting the beingness, the flow of the quantum of the universe just come through and show us. It'll tell us what we need to see and do.
Yeah.
As you're talking, Dorianna, I'm also sort of sensing this a little bit back to where I started, really, to that the I, or whatever I thought I was, is hardly anymore. So I become invisible, and in that invisibility, I become and am, and in that there is this deep ability to listen. And through that listening comes the impulse. And I think maybe that's, if there's anything I would, recommend, is, can we manage to listen more, not just to others, but even to ourselves and to our own impulses. And through that listening, I think, yeah, that's how we're being guided forward.
Yeah, beautiful.
And I would say something very similar in that getting still, like for me, it's almost like, the hourglass kind of thing, like getting very still in your being, in your body, mind, heart, soul, spirit being, and then allowing the expanse, like play in the infinite, play in the possibilities. What if we are awakened? What if, and just allowing not your mind, because you've dropped below that, but your infinite self to play. What would I love? What would it look like if it was everything we dreamed and more? And begin to activate those muscles or that language. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'd really echo everybody else's words, but in my own, is something about dropping into that peace within. And how I do that is out in nature, which I think, if there's one piece of advice, it would be for anybody to get out in nature if they can. Even if you're in a city, you could go to a park and look up at the sky and, connect with the trees or the grass. Something about that, isn't there, which just takes us, but doing it in a way that's dropping away from the I am, as people have been saying, just being there as being another part of nature rather than being a human being in the middle of it and seeing ourselves as separate. Something about that, I think.
Yeah, beautiful. And I would say, get excited and raise your vibration. As long as it's the feel good piece, you raise anything that raises your vibration is going to help on this path big time, because as soon as you pop to a certain level, everything just works. It's effortless at that point. You don't have to work at it. And as we've talked, the universe then the infinite, just it fluidly participates with you to turn things out so it doesn't occur so chaotic and crazy and like you're not in charge at some point. But this feels like got it, it's in a really delicious, delightful way. So that's brilliant. I love all that. That's just wonderful. Thank you all for playing and having the conversation. And I'm sure we'll do loads more. So thanks a lot. And we're sending everybody's good vibes for whatever their quantum becoming is next. So brilliant.